And we've heard reports that there was enormous pressure on representatives to actually vote yes for the bailout. We heard Brad Sherman, Michael Burgess of Texas, even talking about the fear-mongering tactics, such as they even mentioned martial law situations. They said they were thrown out of meetings. I'd like to get some of your perspective as to all the pressure that was put on you to vote yes on this bill.
Well, I had some pressure put on me. The president called me and asked me to vote for it. I had actually called the president because I didn't think he'd call me to try to convince me, because my position had been so clear. As Farron said, I made a speech on the floor the day it happened. I made several speeches. So I was not one of those people that was, wishy-washy about this issue.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, I spoke very forcefully to our leadership and said, this is absolutely the wrong way to go.
Right.
But I wanted to say that directly to the president.
Yeah.
I felt a strong feeling that I needed to say that to him and do my best to persuade him. So I called the White House and I said I'd like to speak to the president about the bailout. Again, thinking he wasn't going to call me to try to persuade me unless I let him think he could get to me.
Right.
So he did call me, and I told him how wrong I thought it was, and that there were other ways to do it. I have to say that, again, the leadership of my party did not put a lot of pressure on me, because I let it be known from the very beginning where I stood. And I generally am that way. They know that I'm not a squish. I call the people who give in on these issues squishes. And they know I'm not a squish. I'm one of the strongest people up there. And they know. I will tell you this. I think that a lot of our leadership believed that it was the wrong thing to do, and they were very conflicted. But they felt they had to support the president. They thought really, well, they felt it was a crisis and that we had to act.
Right.
It wasn't a crisis till the president made it a crisis. The president and Paulson made it a crisis. I believe they could have handled this in many different ways, but they made it a crisis. And once it became a crisis, then yes, something had to be done. But I think they should have done things. Paulson actually admitted to us that he'd been watching this for a year, and that it was, I think they went to the White House on a Thursday night, that on Wednesday they saw the credit markets freezing up, and they decided they couldn't do anything else. I thought that was irresponsible on their part, not to have done some things up until that point. And we could have done free market things. We could have made capital gains. We could have had a holiday on capital gains, for example. Or we could have done many things. We could change to marketing, which was one of the big issues that we said needed to be done. Lots of things that could have been done that would have fit into free market principles that would have solved the problem. And that was my message to the president. But they didn't do that. But again, it was a matter of conscience for most people.
Now, in 1999, President Clinton repealed the Glass-Steagall Act. Do you think that may have had consequences that we're now seeing with the investment banking going into lending?
Well, I think what we have allowed to happen in this country, again, the Democrats have said this was a lack of regulation. I don't think so much it was a lack of regulation as it is greed and entrepreneurship, in a sense that once people saw ways to make money, it's going to happen wherever you are. I mean,
right.
You see, I don't know, something happens. Let's say we have a hurricane. People will print up T-shirts, "I survived the hurricane." I mean, that is entrepreneurship.
Right.
That's somebody seeing a way to make money in an opportunity. And so what these people were seeing on Wall Street is they're always going to look for a way to make money. And so they looked for a way to make money, and they were selling those bad mortgages over and over and over again and creating the derivatives. I think there are a lot of reasons for it. It wasn't no regulation. It was the government can't keep up with entrepreneurs. The government's never going to be able to stay ahead of people trying to make a
Yeah.
buck, and that's not bad.
Right.
It's just that the government should get out of that most of the time, let people make a buck honestly, and then if they are dishonest, then punish them.
Now, do you see some conflicts of interest with Secretary Paulson and cash carry with Goldman Sachs, AIG, all that situation?
Absolutely, I see conflict of interest.
Thank you.
And I think that part of our problem too is the people he's brought in to work
Right.
with him on solving the problem are people who lost their jobs at Shearson Lehman and people who
Right.
lost their jobs at Goldman Sachs. I don't think that doesn't inspire confidence in me.
Yeah.
I had long talk with John Allison, the head of BB&T, Branch Banking and Trust Company, one of the best banks in this country. And he helped me get a really good perspective on this. You know, Paulson has an investment banker's mindset.
Right.
So do those other people. And Allison said, again, it wasn't a crisis till they made it a crisis. It could have been solved a lot better with bankers, community banker mentality,
Right.
looking for ways to solve this problem. But they put the very wrong people in charge of this. And I think what you've seen happen in the last week proves it, because they started out by bailing out the investment banks. That didn't work.
Right.
Credit stayed frozen. So then they went to buying up stock in the banks. I'm very much opposed to that. But at least they're going to where the problem can be solved,
Right.
which is where the credit for the average person is coming from and the average business instead of the investment banks.
Right.
I just think we were bailing out the friends of Henry Paulson.
Yeah.
Well, in capitalism, you know, you're free to fail, and when a bank fails and stock gets so low, someone seems to come along and buy it, and
Right.
the banks would learn their lesson of, hey, the government's not going to bail us out if we make bad loans, but instead we engaged in corporate welfare.
That's
Do you
right.
think John McCain missed a golden opportunity to go against the bailout and say to the American people, I'm going to stand for the American people, I'm not going to bail out Wall Street, Main Street's not going to bail out Wall Street, and maybe could have made a change or really gained in the polls in this election?
Yes. I'm going to give you a
Straight up.
short answer for that. Yes.
That's
I think McCain made a major mistake by not getting on the right side of this issue.
Well, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with your phone calls. Our phone number is 704-873-1400. Our Davie County number is 336-499-0681. If you would like to call in and got a question for Ms. Fox, feel free to do so here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, we're here on the Real News, 1400 WDSL, 1520 WDSL, and we've got Virginia Foxx in the studio with us, and we're going to go to the phones. You're on the Real News. You're on the Real News.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I got a question for Ms. Fox.
Okay, go ahead.
I actually have a two-part question. My first question is, there's some news going around that I'm reading an article about the European Union have all had a big meeting, and they are wanting a one-world currency, and that the French president has got a meeting very soon in Washington with George Bush about this. And I was wondering if Ms. Congresswoman Fox could comment on that, and then I have one more question.
Why don't you let him ask both of them?
Go ahead and ask your second question, if you would, sir.
Okay. Well, my second question has to do with the collapsing economy, and a lot of talk, a lot of people have been connecting a lot of dots going back to 1983 and 1984 to the REX, the Rex 84 program, and the Operation Splicer and Garden Plot, which Cable Splicer has to do with the federal government's takeover of state and local governments, and Garden Plot is the population control, and with a lot of the internment camps that are in all 50 states, and with the Homeland Brigades that have started on October 1st, with active troops coming back from Iraq and now patrolling the streets in the United States.